Taylor, I think they need to talk to you.
Oh.
No, I'm about to say, Taylor's back on headset.
Hello?
I want to bring my first two in.
I'm trying to get this chair. It's slightly higher than I want it to be.
I know, it's like tall.
Yeah, it's just a hair.
Yes. Being here.
Carlos, we have that election spoken for the night. I think Andrew is going to start the stream, so just make sure all mics are killed.
Yeah.
Camera 2, that's the one. Oh, that's the camera, okay.
Okay. So all mics are killed and the slate is up. Just confirm.
2 minutes. Okay.
I'm going to go off headset and grab April real quick.
Yeah, we probably need to get the first two candidates in.
Yes. Well, just this top part.
Perfect. That's fine. Is it okay for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, Carlos, you think I need to
I was
move
just
them
taking
so
notes.
they're not covering the candidates?
I gotta bring them.
It'll be fine, okay.
But you never know. You're
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see.
Yeah, she's out of headset.
Looks like we've got the majority of the cords out of the way, so just carefully find your seat. Perfect.
Frank moved.
I move. I'm just going to chat. I got to just chat. I got to chat briefly with the candidates.
And so, Frank's going to rank you. What kind of school are you?
He's.
Boulevard. We're glad to have you with us. We are doing this forum 2 weeks from Election Day, which is November 2nd. We're going to be chatting with all the candidates running for the 4 slots here in Warner Robins. That's Mayor and Council Posts 1, 3, and 5. Presented by 13 WMAZ and, of course, sponsored by Robbins Regional Chamber. We appreciate their sponsorship. Their mission, obviously, is to serve the business community, but the Chamber also wants to make sure citizens are informed of everything that's going on in the community, and obviously the upcoming election is a very big one. Without further ado, as we said, we will go through the candidates. We'll start with Post 5, 2 candidates running there, and that is the incumbent Clifford Holmes and the challenger Michael Jones. We welcome both of you and are happy to have you with us. Our questions come from our panelists today. We're very pleased to welcome 13 WMAZ morning anchor Caitlin Heck and Vice President with Cadence Bank David Danzy, and we certainly appreciate them taking their time. So without further ado, we will get underway, and we'll start with opening statements. 2 minutes for the candidates. Mr. Holmes, we'll start with your opening remarks.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to come before you this evening. I'm Clifford Holmes, as stated. I'm married, 2 kids, grown, 2 grandkids, and one little lady 5 years old that rules the nest, my great-grand. I'm a retired educator, 40 years in Houston County, and did 2 years at the Georgia Department of Education, Vocational Division, and so instructional consultant. Served as city councilman. This is my 12th year as councilman, post 5 to be exact. 70 days of interim mayor. That was back in September 2008 until November 2008. 08. Served in the Houston County Hospital Authority for 8 years, where we added some new wings, new emergency room, and what have you. Housing Authority 4 years. Phoenix Center Behavioral Health Service Board of Directors 2 years. Middle Georgia Consortium 2003 until present. Chairperson of the Youth Council, Board of Directors of Workforce Development. Middle Georgia Clean Air Coalition, Middle Georgia Region Commission, Middle Georgia Aging Committee, Georgia Municipal Association, where I was just elected 2 years. I'm the second vice president of that. Warner Robins Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, my membership, where I served as steward for a term, and I served as treasurer on the steward board. I am not tired yet, and I say that because I've served 12 years, and that's a long time. But I'm not tired. As I said, I'm a retired educator, and when I retired from education, nothing stopped. In fact, I didn't realize there was so many things to be done after retirement. So look forward to that, and look forward to working after that.
All right, opening statement, 2 minutes, Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Jones. I'm grateful to be here. First, I want to thank the Robbins Regional Chamber, and I'd also like to thank 13 WMAZ for allowing me this opportunity to speak on my platform. The reason that I'm running is simple. I truly believe that we need change. We need different voices. We need different opinions. We need different ideas, policies, and solutions. And I feel that the way that we've been moving currently is just not the most conducive way or the most efficient way of getting things done. I'm running on 3 T's. There's truth, there's trust, and there's transparency. I believe that by always being truthful, we can garner a lot of trust that has been lost in the citizens when it comes to their local government. And by doing so, we can always remain transparent. One of the things that I'd like to see is a little bit more community involvement, not just on the community's behalf, but also on the council. I think that we need to be more interactive when it comes to the people that we're representing. We need to actually understand what their needs, their issues, their concerns, their comments might be, and that's the best way of actually serving them. We as politicians have a unique way of trying to impose our will on the citizens and make them believe that what we're doing is best for them, but we actually have to listen to them. So that's what we've been doing. We've been canvassing the streets. Everywhere in Post 5, I've had an ability to go into and talk to just different citizens, different residents, to actually see what it is that they want. Most people think it's big things. It's small things. They want more street lights. They want speed bumps in residential areas. They want to feel safe. They want the crime to be addressed in different ways other than just a heightened police sense. And I just feel that I am a perfect candidate to do such. When we speak about diversity, we don't necessarily speak about age, but we don't have too many young voices on the council, and I would like to change that. I feel that we have a unique perspective that could also help contribute a lot, and I think that we're valuable assets when it comes to that. So my name is Michael Jones. I am running for Post 5 City Council, and I'm here to give a voice to the voiceless, and I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all. We'll start with our question and answer period right now. The first question, Mr. Danzy, and it's directed to Mr. Jones. You'll go first.
Good evening, Mr. Jones, Mr. Holmes. First question, Houston County is booming on all fronts, and Warner Robins continues to experience exponential growth. One wouldn't have to look hard to note that concentrated growth is happening inequitably throughout our community. How would you attract redevelopment opportunities into areas that have not seen the same level of investment as others?
That's a great question. And seeing as I'm running for Post 5, that area is the area that I would be representing. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of economic opportunity out there. I do Uber on the side, so I get a chance to pick up a lot of people, and I'm constantly taking them over to 96, to Lake Joy, to other areas of the city because they don't have any real places of employment on that side of town. So one of the things that I think would really help us is to get through the settlement so that we can actually turn the fiber on, so that we can become a smart city. A smart city would do wonders when it comes to attracting new industry industry, and a lot of that industry may also be able to be placed on that side of town. I also think that by actually going forward with the redevelopment of Commercial Circle and attempting to create a downtown area, that those kind of opportunities can also open, the doors to other jobs that might be able to be provided on that side of town. So I think that we just need to put a concentration of the funds, allocate funds to that area, and then also try to attract developers and let them know that there are other areas in Warner Robins that they can, work in.
All right, same question, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, several years ago, and I mean several years ago, the north side of town, or Post 5, was a flourishing area. Businesses, car dealerships, grocery stores, and what have you. And as they began to develop the city and the growth took place, as you're seeing right now, they're moving south, they're moving west. So naturally, for whatever reason, the businesses are moving that way. I would love to, and it's my desire, to rebuild the north side of town, or the north side of Warner Robins, Post 5, by coming up with some plans through help from the citizens, help from the businesses, because I won't do it. It's going to take the village, as we speak of often, the village to build and to draw people back to that side of town.
All right, our next question will come from Caitlin Heck, and Mr. Holmes, you'll answer first this time.
Okay.
Well, we've heard a lot of talk about developing a downtown or a city center for the city of Warner Robins. What do you think that would look like, and how would you make that a reality?
Fortunately, it's going to happen, and you'll start seeing some groundbreaking soon. Starting at Watson Boulevard, maybe Watson Boulevard and Davis Drive, with possibly a new business will come into town and open up in that vacant field right there in the circle. The downtown development, which was, I serve on that, I chair that committee by virtue of the fact that as a liaison person to the council, and we lost 2 or 3 members, I serve as the chair of that. Now we just added some new members to that. I foresee the downtown development, Commercial Circle, kicking off right there at Davis Drive and Watson Boulevard and moving south. I mean, whatever direction that is, north, to with businesses coming in.
Same question, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. So what I envision is an area that's family friendly, that you can just literally walk from store to store. You can, maybe stop at these restaurants, and there's also a work, live, play environment that might also come into effect, where we have lofts over the actual buildings where people can actually live there, and they can, really take full advantage of the facilities. I think that there's great opportunity to create this beautiful little area where we also have like amphitheaters, and we can have community events where the city can actually put on certain things. Maybe it's a food truck Friday, or maybe it's a any type of event that might actually get the citizens involved, and that would be the area that I feel would be the best area for that. The Commercial Circle, right around Davis, parts of Watson. So I just envision this nice area where you can just go out on a Sunday afternoon and you can enjoy the the buildings, you can enjoy the bars or the restaurants, and just a great place that you can enjoy yourself.
All right, our next question will come from Mr. Danzy, and Mr. Jones, you'll go first this time.
Yes, as you know, our neighborhoods have made great strides in combating blighted communities, and so this ties in with the downtown piece. What do you think we can do to impact and stabilize these local neighborhoods against blight?
So blight is actually on the platform that I'm running on. There's a few ideas that we could probably tackle before we go to the actual legal routes, but I think actually addressing it with the landowners, seeing is there a way that they can get their stuff up to code. If they don't actually live in the community, they don't have true reasoning to care too much about the abandoned buildings, especially if there's not a business there. But if we can actually talk to them into either selling the property or redeveloping it so that they can actually provide a service to the community, I think that would be a great way to do it. But then there's also this idea called land banks, where you create organizations that would actually go in and work to redevelop or take those properties to make them a little bit more efficient for the community. So addressing the blight, there's a few different ways that we can do that. I would like to go the route of actually speaking with the landowners before we actually try to go in there in any kind of legal route. But if the legal route is necessary for the betterment of the community, then I believe that's what we have to do.
All right, Mr. Holmes, same question for you about blight.
Yes, a major part of my platform also. Right now we're busy cleaning the Public Works Department, doing as best job they can. Grant you this COVID has stopped or slowed down a lot of the cleanliness. I say to you, we have a lot of out-of-town landlords. I won't go as far as to call them slum landlords. They got the building, they buy the buildings, they rent the buildings out, but they go back to wherever they live, which is usually not in Warner Robins. The citizens or the tenants complain and get no result as a result of that because they can't reach the landlord. The legal side of that is that when you go in and try to clean up the city can't go in and clean up this property without having contact or billing the owners.
All right, next question is from Caitlin Heck, and Mr. Holmes, you'll answer first this time. Thank you.
Along those similar lines, code enforcement can be utilized as a proactive neighborhood stabilization tool. How would you ensure that this department has the tool and the manpower it needs to operate effectively?
Well, as a sitting council person, we're doing that now. We just put a large sum of money into code enforcement for them to hire more. In fact, I think it's 3 to 6 new enforcement officers. What they've got to do is they've got to patrol the areas, and they've got to stop and meet with the owners. Several years ago, it got real dangerous here. Those of you that were around here saw that, where we had a code enforcement officer shot trying to enforce the code. We put with that code enforcement group a licensed officer that could actually go out and write tickets and enforce the law. Code enforcement is doing, I think, has done, but it's getting ready to do a yeoman's job in terms of carrying out and cleaning up the city, helping clean up the city.
All right, code enforcement question for Mr. Jones.
Yes, so I think one of the main ways that you can combat certain issues is through education. So I think we need to actually see, do they have the tools? Are they being properly trained to do these things? Or do they know the codes and all of them? And like Mr. Holmes said, funding, that is definitely something that we need to look into. If we need to hire more because it seems like the task is a little too daunting for the staff that we already have, then we need to figure out ways that we can generate the revenue to actually do that. But like I said, the number one thing that I believe would actually help is some type of cooperation between the code enforcement and the community themselves. Make them come off not as somebody who is authoritative, but somebody who's actually trying to help them. I feel like, when you see the code enforcement truck pull up, it might be a little scary at first because you're not sure what did you violate, and for them to come off as a little friendly or to understand that, hey, I'm just here to solve this issue. I'm not here to, to put you in jail or anything like that. I think that would also help. So just some type of community type of cooperation between code enforcement and the community.
All right, next question from Mr. Danzy, and Mr. Jones, you'll answer first.
And Mr. Holmes kind of alluded to this. Let's talk about crime. What would you do to combat crime in the area? Would you do something differently?
Yes, sir. I love this question. So to me, what we normally do is we try to have an enhanced sense of police presence. And while the police department does an amazing job, they only respond to crime. So my main thing is we have to look at the socioeconomic issues that contribute to crime. And that's a lack of education, that's a lack of economic empowerment, that's a lack of mental health services, and that's a lack of homelessness. So by addressing those issues, you actually prevent crime. And that's the thing that we need to start looking on. We need to be a little bit more preventative when it comes to crime rather than, reactive. to what it is. So I think that by creating community centers that can help with resume building or job seeking and things like that, partnering with some of the behavioral health services around here to ask them if they'd like to volunteer a certain time to maybe talk to people to see if there's things that they can help with and address. I think, and then obviously addressing the education, making sure that people have what they need, becoming financially literate would help to become self-sufficient.
All right, the crime question, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, I had the pleasure from 1972 to 1978 to serve as an auxiliary policeman for the city of Warner Robins. And what we did then was we rode on weekends, holidays, to give the officers some time off. We worked clubs, restaurants, we worked ball games. We went through training. We just did not become a licensed police officer, but we went through all of the training. What we've done now is we've increased the budget for the police department so that they can hire more people. We've allowed, through a charter, we've allowed those individuals serving as officers out on Robins Air Force Base to retire and to come to work and bring that experience to the city of Warner Robins. We need to work and train and provide, develop that village, that community that it's going to take. And we need to not be afraid to talk to the police officers when they pull up.
All right, we have time for one more question. Caitlin, you'll direct the question. Mr. Holmes, you'll go first.
Okay, you mentioned homelessness. How would you combat homelessness within the city?
My question. I don't know if we can combat homelessness. I think we can do some things to help alleviate some of the problems. We have several buildings around here. We look at other communities that take vacant buildings and develop them into homeless apartments, homeless housing. I would like to see some of our business owners, our property owners who have such a facility to offer that to the city and then partner with the city and the community to provide housing. The church is already doing some things. They're feeding on a daily basis, weekly basis. We can't stop doing that. If you see somebody homeless and they need something, if you're going to help them. But don't make it a habit. Don't enable someone that can get out and earn a living.
All right, homeless question, Mr. Jones.
So what I've noticed is there's a few organizations already working towards, I would say, combating homelessness. They'll go out on certain days, they'll bring bags of toiletry or things like that to give them because they realize that, hey, you don't have these essentials. But I think we need to actually talk to them, see exactly what it is that might have led to the hard times of being homeless, and then see if there's ways that we can address the root cause of that. And it goes back to what I said about crime. Like, if we can address certain things and you can help somebody become a little bit more self-sufficient, which will allow them the opportunity to have a job, holding that job will allow them the opportunity to begin to get into a house or an apartment or some situation like that. I believe we need a little bit more shelters around here. I think that by creating those opportunities that we can allow them a safe space to come to, then that'll actually give them the opportunity to also want to speak to us about other things. And you got to establish some type of rapport. So I think by partnering with the organizations who are already doing something, we could actually combat it a lot quicker. And then, like I said, also addressing the things like education and stuff.
All right, that concludes the question and answer portion. We're now ready for our 1-minute closing statements. Mr. Jones, you will go first.
All right, thank you. Once again, I want to thank 13 WMAZ, Robins Regional Chamber, and Warner Robins for giving me this opportunity. When the protests and the demonstrations started last year, I became active and I wanted to do a lot for my community. I wanted to make it better. And by actually stepping into this position right here, I feel like it's the best way that I can do that. I am running because there needs to be a change. There needs to be more transparency in the way that our government operates, and I'm here to do that. I ran a podcast that was about transparency, that was about letting people know what's really going on, and I plan on doing that exactly when I get into office. I plan on being a very, very instrumental part of what makes Warner Robins continue to be the amazing city that it is. I want to help bring certain things like the downtown area, or just redevelop other parts of the community that I am a part of. I love this city, and I love the opportunity that I've been given. I'm going to continue to fight every day to make Warner Robins better. My name is Michael Jones. I am running for Post 5, and like I said, I'm here to give a voice to the voiceless. Thank you.
I will conclude now with 1 minute closing statement. Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. Wisdom, knowledge, experience. I bring those three things to the city. I bring those three things to the public. Wisdom, knowledge, and experience. Vote Clifford Holmes Jr., Post 5. I've said to you, I've served 12 years as a council person. I'm not tired yet. There's work to be done. And we are at a stage now where we're beginning to add more things that we can do for the citizens of Warner Robins. So let's keep working. Bring me back. I thank you all for the opportunity to allow me to serve you for 12 years. You didn't have to do that, but you did. And you don't have to keep. This is not a lifetime job. But I've done 12, and I would like to do 4 more years to help continue and finish out some of the things we started and getting ready to start now. Vote Clifford Holmes.
All right, thank you. You have been listening to the candidates for Post 5, Warner Robins City Council, the incumbent Clifford Holmes, the challenger Michael Jones. We appreciate them for being here. We also appreciate our panelists, Caitlin Heck and David Dancy. Thank you. And again, remember, 2 weeks from today, November 2nd, is Election Day.
2, 1.
All right, welcome. This is the Warner Robins Political Forum, and right now we're getting ready to introduce you to the candidates running for Post 3. And they include Angie Eugene, Scott Howard, and the incumbent Keith Lauritsen. We certainly are pleased to have them with us as we count down to Election Day. We're also pleased to have our two panelists, Caitlin Heck, 13 WMAZ morning anchor, and David Danzy. He is the Vice President for Cadence Bank, and he is also the Chair-elect for the Robbins Regional Chamber of Commerce, the folks that are putting this on, and we certainly are glad to have them with us. All right, we're now getting ready to get underway. We'll start with opening statements. 2 minutes for your opening statement, candidates, and then we'll go to the question and answer, a minute to answer the questions, and we'll finish up with a minute for closing statements. All right, first opening statement, Angie Eugene, 2 minutes, go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Angie Eugene. I'm the founder of Trinity Vision Global. It's the local nonprofit here in Warner Robins. I'm the mother of 2 and a grandmother of 1, Carter, who's my heart. I graduated from CICA. I am an ordained minister. I am a certified life coach and also certified in human trafficking. I love the city of Warner Robins, and I'm here to serve better and serve the citizens of Warner Robins. I have been in the community for 16 years, and I moved to Warner Robins in 2005. I've been here ever since, and it's home. And I just love the city, and I would love to leave a better Warner Robins for my children, my grandchildren, and your family. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Howard, your turn for 2 minute opening statement.
All right. Hello, I'm Scott Howard. I've moved here to Warner Robins in 1998 as a result of the BRAC closure of Kelly Air Force Base. I transferred here with the C-5 aircraft workload. I was an avionics mechanic for 15 years after I got here, and in my last 11 years of my career, I was an equipment specialist. I retired from the base in 2015, and since then I've been a full-time grandfather with 4 grandkids living at home. I have a grown son and a grown daughter. My son lives in Kennesaw. My daughter lives here in Warner Robins with us, and I'm wanting to put back something into this community. We've enjoyed living in Warner Robins all these years. It's time for me to give something back, and I hope to do that for you. Thank you.
All right, 2 minute opening statement, Mr. Lauritsen.
Thank you. My name is Keith Lauritsen, and I've been blessed to serve the city of Warner Robins for the last 8 years. And I'm married to Amy. She's my wife. She's a school teacher. I have 3 children, and I too am a lifelong educator. For 30 plus years, I've been able to serve the citizens and families of Middle Georgia, and I hope to continue to do that. Some of the things that I'm really passionate about are our children and our families. I believe that they deserve all the opportunities in the world, and through an elected position such as this, we can really make a difference in making sure that we're providing those opportunities, whether it's through keeping them safe, through our public safety, through recreation, giving them opportunities there, and then in other areas, just giving them opportunities to thrive in whatever they're interested in. And so I believe our city is a great city. We have wonderful employees, and it's a blessing to have been a citizen here for my entire life. And so I'm just really looking forward to whatever happens, just continue to be a part of this great city and serve the Warner Robins. Thank you.
All right, now time for the question and answer period. 1 minute for your answers to the questions. The first question will come from Mr. Danzy. Mr. Howard, you will go first on this one.
Good evening. This is a 2-part question, so it deals with being business friendly. Do you consider Warner Robins, specifically government and our licensing process, business friendly? And what steps would you take to make it more attractive for emerging entrepreneurs to make their businesses legally compliant with legal requirements, local requirements?
I do believe that Warner Robins is business friendly, as evidenced by the number of businesses that we see opening almost daily. We see a new business here and a new business there. I was just driving up 247 today on my way to Macon for an appointment, and I saw that they were breaking ground for a new business. So I don't believe Warner Robins has any problems with being business unfriendly. As to what I would do to make it better for new businesses, I would take a look at the efficiency and what we put businesses through in order to get their business license, and see if we can smooth that out. I understand that sometimes they have to go through 3 or 4 steps in the approval process just to get their license. So I would see what we can do to make that a little smoother.
All right, same question about business. Mr. Larson, your turn.
Thank you. I agree with Scott completely. I don't think our city has a lot of barriers to people wanting to get into business here in our community. However, I believe we can enhance that whole process through our economic development branch. Our recently engaged Warner Robins committee that we're putting together as our arm of economic development. What we'd like to do is offer incentives to local developers and anyone really that wants to build in Warner Robins. Through doing that, we can build those businesses, because there are some industries that do have barriers to entry. In Warner Robins, if you start a restaurant or a small business, it's not that difficult. But if you're into industry, sometimes, depending on what that industry is, it could be quite complicated. But we could help that process through assisting them through the state and through the federal government, and our Economic Development Board does just that. So we want to continue to build upon that and make sure that we're providing opportunities for our own developers, but also from developers from outside that come in and help build our town. Our town has traditionally been a sort of a bedroom community because of the base, but we certainly want to continue to build on those industries and businesses, bringing them to our area, providing them incentives. Thank you.
All right. Same question about business. Miss Eugene, your turn.
This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I am a female entrepreneur. I'm a business owner here in Warner Robins. Starting my own business was a bit challenging because I didn't know where to go, what to do, where I should go to find the information or find support. So one of the things that I'm looking into is having a list of different places where people can go, different steps, because for me, I had to go to 7 different people in order to get what I needed, like my business license, things of that nature, even to have a past inspection for my building. So other cities have a list, so I'm working on putting one together here for us in Warner Robins.
All right, our next question will come from Caitlin Heck, and Mr. Larson, you will be the first to answer.
Now, you've talked about bringing in new businesses, but what can be done to better nurture some of the existing businesses here in the city?
That's a great question. I really think we have some fantastic businesses and organizations here. And I mentioned a while ago about providing incentives to recruiting new business. Well, we also need to provide those same incentives to our current businesses and industries. Hey, let's help the ones that have been here longest. And I think we do that through our Community Development Block Grant and other incentives through our Economic Development Board, but to continue to try to support them because we want them to thrive. I mean, that's our strength right now. We whether it's the base or whether it's any business, we want them to be successful because that's going to make us successful Warner Robins. And that's where we provide our jobs and all of our economic growth through all of the businesses. So we want to definitely continue to do that, look for ways to provide them more incentives instead of just recruiting new business, providing incentives to those existing businesses.
All right, the help existing business question. Miss Eugene, your turn.
Yes. So some of the things that I'm currently doing is through my organization, we have business after hours. So anyone that has a small business, they can come to this meeting and we exchange ideas. We try to help each other. And another great fun thing that we do is when someone starts a business, we give them, like people would have bridal showers, we give them a business shower basket. And it's a basket filled with just items for their office. So that's a wonderful incentive, and then also they can know that that we're here if they need support, moral support. If they're just having a challenging time, they can call upon us.
All right, the existing business question. We'll finish up, Mr. Howard.
Okay. I was just thinking, if only there was an organization in town that businesses could go to get help with things that they need. Like a Chamber of Commerce kind of place. They could go there and get help with the things they need because that organization is a liaison between businesses and government and businesses. So they could, the resources are here. And if there are any things that need to be done to help a current business improve their business or grow their business, the Chamber is a great place to go do that.
All right, our next question will come from Mr. Danzy, and Miss Eugene, you will get the first crack at this one.
So you kind of touched on economic growth in the area, and so we all know Houston County is booming, business is booming. We've seen exponential growth, but there are some inequities. How would you attract development in areas that may not be seeing this economic impact like other areas?
Well, there are certain areas that are booming and certain areas that just would need more attention, we can say. So I personally know a lot of people who would love to start businesses here in Warner Robins. However, they're finding some challenges. Just, like I said before, where to go, who to go, having the connection, having the right people to connect with. Who owns this piece of property, or who owns this building that they can connect with in order to purchase that building or in order to get their business started. So again, just knowledge, just connecting with the right people is key.
Mr. Howard, your turn to answer the question about inequities in certain parts of town.
Inequities in certain parts of town. What comes to mind is our blight problem. Of course, this has been addressed many, many times over many, many years. I understand there's been a study or two done that have identified places, areas of blight in our city. It's time that we actually do something about it. We've studied it, we know what needs to be done, and we know where it needs to be done. It's time to do something about it. Part of that blight's problem could be addressed by enticing businesses to set up business in those areas. I'm sure we could provide tax incentives for those businesses to come into those areas. That's not uncommon for cities to do. It's not uncommon for cities to provide roads and things to a business who wants to come in. So I believe there's plenty that we can do to bring businesses into those areas.
And we'll wrap up this question with Mr. Lauritsen.
Yes, thank you. Hey, this is of great concern to me. I serve District 3, but you know what? We serve the entire city, and we do have some areas of our city that are weaker than others. And just like any organization, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And I can tell you from experience that when you start developing and redeveloping areas of the city that are more impoverished or blighted, you're making a huge positive impact on your city. We built a $22 million facility on North Houston Road, and we're already seeing tremendous impact economically from that part of town through new businesses coming in, people want to move to that area. So those are the kinds of things you can do. Also, some of the things these other people have mentioned is providing incentives in those areas. We have areas of our town that are within a certain map that we do provide those incentives, tax credits, those kinds of things. But a tremendous opportunity for us to take advantage of rebuilding these parts of the city that need it most to make our whole city strong.
All right, continuing with our questions for our District 3 candidates, Warner Robins City Council. Caitlin Heck, you have the next question, and Mr. Howard, you will go first on this one.
As we talk about all of the growth within the city, how well do you think the city services are keeping up with that growth, and what can be done to prepare for future growth as more businesses and people come to the area?
I think so far the city is keeping up well. I do have concerns. We've talked about water leaks and gas leaks, so that indicates there may be some infrastructure problems that need to be addressed, maybe some repairs made, even replacement of certain pipelines and things like that. But overall, I think we're doing well. As far as preparing for future growth, we just have to manage it. We just have to keep control over how much growth we have and where it goes. I know that doesn't sound very democratic, but for us to provide the services that we want to provide to the people that come here, we're going to have to be able to control where those services go and how fast they go in.
All right, the growth question, Mr. Lauritsen, your turn.
Thank you. We are blessed in Warner Robins to have a vibrant enterprise fund through our water, sewer, and natural gas. Those are the three services that we provide. And we have a great infrastructure in our city already, but it is aging. And as an example, at this moment, we're quadrupling the size of our sewer system towards the south end of the county and replacing lines on the north end to make sure that we can adequately supply those services to the business industries and homes that need them. That's one thing we can do through our enterprise fund. You hear a lot about water leaks and those kinds of things, and there are a lot of water leaks, but we also work with the county on those things. A lot of the water that our citizens use actually is coming from the county, so we have to work in conjunction with them to help fix those problems. So it's a little more complicated, but we still can stay on top of it. As far as our gas service is concerned, we are one of the largest gas customers in the state of Georgia, and that is a great thing for industry and for our citizens. Natural gas is one of the best use of our funds and of our resources, and so we want to continue to support that as we have in the past.
All right, the growth question, Ms. Eugene, we'll finish this question up with you.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the challenge is traffic. Certain areas, like when the base is letting out, the people are going to work, that's one of the areas that we need to work on, is either have, more lanes where people can, be able to get to work quicker, and when schools are in, for the bus lanes to be kids to get off, things like that. But that's pretty much the area is traffic in Warner Robins. But other than that, the sidewalks are great. Certain areas do need, sidewalks and traffic lights, and street lights. But other than that, traffic is the major issue.
Well, our next question comes from Mr. Danzy. Mr. Lauritsen, you will go first on this one.
So, do you think that having a downtown or city center is important to Warner Robins' future growth?
That's one of the most intriguing things that we have facing us today. With our city being such a new city, relatively speaking, in the late 40s, early 50s, we don't have that downtown shopping area like a lot of the older communities have. So it's very difficult to duplicate that. However, over the years, through tax incentives and different types of programs, we've tried to get that started, and we just haven't been able to do it. But we have some new initiatives that we're working on. That is a great desire of mine, and I think it would be wonderful for our community, because that old downtown area that we call downtown, it could stand a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity through retail and even loft apartments. Any of those kinds of things could just bring back that vibrancy into that area of the community, which I think is very important, and we're going to continue to work on.
All right, Ms. Eugene, question about the city center for Warner Robins.
Yes, absolutely. We are the international city, so we should have an international festival. That's something that I'm personally working on. I have reached out to other cities that do put on an international city festival. I love the food. I love different culture. So entertainment, definitely. Live, play, work. Will be amazing to have a facility here where we can do all three. And it will also keep our young people here. When my kids graduated, they moved away, and they moved back, thank God, which is a great thing, to have a grandbaby close. But when my kids graduated, they moved away. So why not keep our young people here to thrive and grow Warner Robins? Thank you.
All right, city center question. We'll finish up with you, Mr. Howard.
Okay. I think having a center square is important. I don't know that it necessarily has to be in what we traditionally think of as downtown Warner Robins. That is from Commercial Circle to 247 in front of the base. We could put a market square anywhere we could find the space to do it. The city now stretches from 247 out past US 41. So, and from the north side, from Dunbar all the way down, really past 96 and south. So we have a lot of area that we could contemplate putting a center square, a marketplace, parks and recreation, those kinds of things. We get a little fixated on the physical location, and I don't think that's necessarily what we have to do. But I am in favor of doing something like that.
All right, next question from Caitlin Heck. Miss Eugene, you will have the first shot at this one.
As we talk about how diverse and how expansive the city of Warner Robins is, how important is it to have accessible methods of transportation, and what would you do to improve upon the existing transit opportunities in the city?
Okay, so speaking with one of the constituents, she pays $40 for a cab to go from the north side to the WIC office. That's a problem for someone who is already on a limited income. So transportation is a huge issue in certain areas. I know we have the Warner Robins Transit, but it does not go to all streets, all different areas. So accessibility, more transportation, public transportation will be an amazing, and it will certainly help low-income residents. So I'm all for it.
All right, transportation issues, Mr. Howard.
I agree. The transportation issues are important. I come from San Antonio, where we had mass transit, and it was nice when you didn't have a car or couldn't find a ride to be able to get on a bus and get to where you needed to go. I don't know that Warner Robins yet is large enough to support a bus system in the traditional sense, but definitely a transportation system of some kind, building on what we have already to help people get from point A to point B would be nice. More than just a ride from a friend, but not quite a full-blown bus system. It's something in between. I don't yet know what, but we'll find out. We'll make something happen.
All right, Mr. Larson, we'll finish up the transportation question with you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with Scott on this one. I don't think our city has the appetite or the need for a large-scale bus system, but we do have the Warner Robins Transit Authority, and we do provide some transit system for our citizens. And at one time, it wasn't being utilized quite as much, and then the pandemic hit, and that, of course, put things back a little bit. But we also have nonprofit organizations out there that assist people that need transportation. And through our community development block grants, we're able to help support them to help get people to doctor's appointments, grocery stores, those kinds of things. So I would support increasing those kinds of opportunities for our citizens instead of a full-scale transit system because I think we can meet the needs individually as to where the people need to get to and who needs to get there.
All right, our next question, Mr. Danzy, and we'll direct it first to Mr. Howard.
So homelessness is a national issue. What do you think we can do locally to combat homelessness?
Well, I absolutely think that we could work as a government with local nonprofit organizations, churches, and organizations like that to build homeless shelters and have areas where we can get homeless people to at least have a shelter, at least have a roof over their head and a bed to sleep in at night. When in middle Georgia, when the winter comes, all 2 weeks of it, but when the winter comes and it gets cold, there's no place to go. There's no place for them to sleep. I know in the past some cities have tried to just shuffle their problems off to other cities, but that's really not the way to handle things. We need to work together to come up with solutions that will allow us to help our homeless people. Mental health issues and other problems could be addressed with these facilities.
All right, homeless question. Mr. Larson, your turn.
Yes, thank you. Hey, I would definitely agree with Scott on this one too. As far as mental health is concerned, the more opportunities and services we can provide there, we can assist with the homeless population. We do currently support our homeless populations through nonprofit organizations and our community development block grant funding. But we also have some opportunities coming in the near future through some federal stimulus funds, about $7.5 million coming our way this year alone. And we intend to use those to support the community and promote these kinds of operations and these activities. Homelessness has to be looked at as a short-term solution for families in need to help them get back up on their feet so they can support themselves. And to do that, it's a very complicated issue, but I believe through the funds that we're getting from the federal government and funds we already have, I think we can do more, and it's my hope and my prayer that we're able to do that in the very near future.
All right, we'll finish up the homelessness question with Ms. Eugene.
Thank you, guys. This is a question that means a lot to me. Through my nonprofit, Trinity Vision Global, we take care of the homeless. We make blessing bags, which is toiletries in the bags. We pass it out. I keep them in my car. We pass it out to the homeless population. We even go into the woods where the homeless are in Tent City, and we pass out the information. We pass out pamphlets. We pass out whatever they may need, blankets, things of that nature. We have done so much for the homeless that my organization and myself, we have even been recognized by the White House for doing good works in the community. And it's not just for an accolade, but we've been doing this for so many years that it reached all the way to Washington, the good works that we're doing right here in our own backyard. So I would love to get some of that money to get a shelter or to keep doing the great works that we are doing right here in Warner Robins. Even after the election, we're giving away turkeys. We are doing Christmas giveaways. So please connect with us because we're doing wonderful things.
All right, our final question here in the question and answer segment will come from Caitlin Heck. And Mr. Larson, you will go first on this.
I'm going to switch gears on us a little bit. What measures would you do to reduce crime and violence in the city, and is there something that we could be doing differently?
Well, you know, currently we've had, I believe, 7 homicides since the beginning of the first year, and that is 7 too many. All 7 of those homicides have been solved, thank goodness. But I think it takes a continuous approach from your entire city, not just the police department or fire department, but from everyone. And I think that revolves around building relationships. And I believe as far as our police department is concerned, we need to be out there policing in the community that we live in and building those positive relationships. When you deal with people and when you're dealing with difficult issues, you need to make sure that you're doing it in the most positive way possible, because you can have some difficult situations that are hard to deal with that can come out at a positive on the other side if you approach it the right way. But I do believe that is our most important function as a city, is to provide a safe community to all of our citizens.
All right, the crime question, Ms. Eugene.
Training. Training will be a great tool. More training for the police officers that we have, and training for the police officers that is coming in. Also incentives for police officers that's coming in to work in the Warner Robins Police Department. Also incentives to live in the community that they are working in. That would be amazing. Auxiliary. We can have an auxiliary police department to assist and aid the current police officers that we have. That would take a huge load off their plate. And I love it when I had a police officer living right next door to me in the same community. And I loved it. I felt safer. People knew they couldn't do anything outrageous because he was right there. So why not? Thank you, guys.
And we'll finish up this question, Mr. Howard.
Thank you. I believe the first thing we can do, or should try to do, is prevention. We tend to think of crime being performed by teenagers or young adults. And I was thinking about this a while ago, and it dawned on me that when I was a teenager, I spent most of my time working on my car. Every young man would buy a jalopy of some kind. A jalopy is an old car. Would buy a jalopy of some kind and spend his time fixing it up. And so that he would have funds to fix his car, he would get a part-time job. And between those two things, he pretty much was able to stay out of trouble. He didn't realize he was staying out of trouble, but that's what he did. So prevention would be a major factor, I believe. And then finally, secondly, would be enforcement. We need serious enforcement of the laws, which I believe our police department is already doing well. And then finally, strong, serious punishment for those who do commit crimes. Thank you.
All right, we'll now finish up with closing statements. Mr. Larson, you will begin. 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Frank. I've been blessed for the last 8 years to serve the greatest city in the country, in the world for that matter. We have some of the most outstanding people working in our city, living in our city, and it has been a great blessing for me to be able to do that. Just play a small part in making it a better place to live for everyone. And I want everyone to know that my commitment remains strong in the area of public safety, in the area of providing a smart, efficient operating city, and also in the area of providing opportunities to all of our citizens, young and old. And I believe that if we can do that, we can continue to build our city. And I would love to be a part of that, and I just covet your votes and your prayers on November the 2nd. Thank you.
Mr. Howard, 1 minute closing statement.
All right, I thank you to the Robins Chamber for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Malloy, for hosting this. And I pray that you will consider voting for me on November 2nd. I want to see Warner Robins move forward. I want to see us do a better job than what we've already done. We've done a great job, but there's always room for improvement. There's always progress to be made. And I intend to help whoever is elected make that progress and move this city in a forward direction. I want to see the smart city come to fruition. I want to see economic diversity, and I want to see people moved here. Ms. Angie talked about international celebrations. That's a great idea, to celebrate the different flavors of this city. So I pray that you will help every one of us as we seek to do our job and seek to make this a better city. Thank you.
We'll finish up for closing statements. Ms. Eugene, 1 minute, please.
Yes, 16 years ago when I decided to move to Warner Robins, I looked up the statistics, and Warner Robins, Houston County had the best school systems. And with an over 80% graduation rate, I mean, that's awesome. It was like 86%. And I just love the city. I love Warner Robins. I've been here ever since. It's a great place to raise your family. And I don't know everything about the politics, but I'm willing to learn. And the more that I learn is the better I can serve. Vote Angie. Thank you guys so much.
We want to thank our three candidates for District 3 City Council in Warner Robins, Angie Eugene, Scott Howard, and the incumbent Keith Lauritsen for taking time to be with us and to let you know where they stand. We want to thank our panelists, Caitlin Heck and David Danzy. Again, early voting is continuing right now through October the 29th, and Election Day is November 2nd. Thank you. Hello and welcome to tonight's Warner Robins Political Forum, sponsored by the Robins Regional Chamber, presented by 13 WMAZ. We're getting ready to meet the three candidates for Warner Robins City Council District 1. Now, this is a citywide seat, which means everyone gets to vote in this particular race. And the candidates, the incumbent, Derek Mack. We also have Leslie Morales and Jonathan Nichols. We want to thank them for taking their time to be here. They will be answering questions from our panelists, Caitlin Heck, morning anchor with 13 WMAZ, and David Nancy. He is vice president with Cadence Bank and also chair-elect for the Robins Regional Chamber. We appreciate them taking their time. And again, Election Day, November the 2nd, so now's a great opportunity to find out where the candidates stand. And we're getting ready to get underway right now. We will begin with 2-minute opening statements. Mr. Mack, we will start with you.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. The Regional Chamber of Commerce, they are the heart and pulse of this city through small business advocacy. And I'm just honored to serve in this capacity as I am the incumbent candidate. And I just want to serve in this capacity because I'm a public servant first. I'm a constituent second. And I just want to advocate for those and be a voice and a true liaison for the people in this city and encourage them to be engaged as we work to better our city in all areas, as we are only as strong as our weakest link. I consider myself to be the boots on the ground candidate, as I'm a person that wants to see tangible growth, not talk about it, but be really about it and diffuse any divisions that we may have in our city, because without togetherness, our city won't grow into its true destiny. Thank you.
All right, opening statement, 2 minutes, Ms. Morales.
Hi. I want to thank everyone for having me here today. This has been an incredible journey, a little interesting. And my name is Leslie Morales. I have been in Warner Robins since 1999. But one of the things that I wanted to mention is the numbers. We have a little over 50,000 registered voters in the city of Warner Robins, and in the special election we received less than 5% of the vote out. I can't impress upon you more than anything that it is so important to get your voice out and be heard and vote. If we get 25%, we would be making such big changes in Warner Robins. My name is Leslie Morales. I am running for Warner Robins City Council Post 1, and I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd.
All right, opening statement, 2 minutes, John Nichols.
Hi, I'm John Nichols. I've been here all my life. Most of my 57 years has been right here in Warner Robins. I've been a servant since I was in high school. I'm an '82 graduate of Northside, and starting back about 12 years ago, really got involved in the community per se, and became a city councilman in Centerville in 2012. Served one term there. Served on the board of directors at the chamber here from 2016, 2019. Glad to be a part of the Military Affairs Committee, where right now I'm part of the Honorary Commanders program. I'm the Honorary Command Chief for the 78th out on Robins Air Force Base, and I'm grateful and honored to be a part of that. Love this city, love this area, and just want to continue to serve. I've served on many boards. One of those is the Northside High School School Council. I've been chairman there for about 5 years. I have served in the Optimist Club, the International City Optimist Club here in Warner Robins, where I'm a past chairman there also. Just thankful for the opportunities that I've had to be able to reach out. I'm very proud to say that the Optimist Club, we have 2 fundraisers a year, and this past 12 months, even in the times we've had, we've given away to the youth of Houston County about $53,000, and that's a big deal. Very thankful and grateful to be a part of that. I ask for your vote because I want to continue to serve my community. I've been wanting to serve since I was in the 5th grade and look forward to serving, continuing to serve more.
All right, thank you very much for your opening statements. We'll now begin the question and answer portion. Our first question will come from Caitlin Heck. Ms. Morales, you will go first with the question.
Warner Robins has grown tremendously. You can see it in the 2020 census numbers. How well do you think city services are keeping up with that growth, and what does the city need to do to attract more and to prepare for more growth?
I appreciate that question, and I might have to ask you to restate it in just a second. But I do know that the city of Warner Robins has grown extremely in the last 2 years even. in trying to keep up with that, we really need to get more people involved. We need to find out what is it that we need to do to take care of the growth that we have here. What is it that the people need that we need to provide to them? What are the decisions that City Council can make that we can help you make that decision?
All right, Mr. Nichols, your crack at the question about city services and keeping up with growth.
Very good. Looking for growth, looking to growth. I believe that there's many partnerships that can be looked into. I think that there are many developers that are able and ready to be able to come on board to be able to help the growth happen. Not only bringing outside businesses from around the nation and other parts into our city, but also partnering with the owners and the business leaders that are already here, giving them the same benefits that we do outside businesses to be able to bring them in and bring them in to build their businesses or expand their businesses even further.
All right, we'll wrap up the question about city services and growth, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir. I really, to be completely honest, I feel as though that rapid growth has somewhat stressed our resources to include our public service, our resources to include water, natural gas, and sewage, and our ambulance services. What we need to do is try to increase our economic base to feed our economic enterprise funds so that we can hire more officials to include code enforcement, police officers, fire, and things of that nature to be able so that we can support that growth properly. Our response times with our police are decreasing because they're covering more areas and more ground, and we need to find a way that we can create ample salaries for all those involved so that we can attract new officers, new resources so that we can handle the new growth that we have.
All right, next question will come from Mr. Danzy and Mr. Nichols. You will go first on this one.
So it's a two-part question. Do you consider Warner Robins, specifically government and our licensing process, business-friendly? And then what steps would you take to make it more attractive for emerging entrepreneurs to make their businesses legally compliant with local requirements?
Well, first off, do I think that it is helpful to be able to bring them in, and is it easy to get through the licensing? I'll be real honest with you. I'm not there yet. I don't have that answer for you yet, sir. In order to find that out and know exactly how easy it is, I have listened to some of my friends, and sometimes it does become hard because we are very legalistic in our world today, and it makes it very difficult for anybody that's trying to open a business. I think we really stress them, and I think some of that can be changed to be able to help bring that business in quicker. As far as making it, well, I'm just trying to remember the second part.
Yes, the second part deals with making, steps to make it more attractive for these emerging. Make it more
attractive.
Yes.
I believe that Warner Robins is very attractive. I think that we are the city that people need to come to. And I believe that what needs to happen, though, is we've got to have a place for them to not only live, but work and play. And I believe that the downtown district is where that can start to be able to bring those people into Warner Robins.
All right. Question there, Mr. Mack, your turn.
The first thing I think we need to do is create an economic roundtable. We need to standardize the process. We need to reboot our website to make it user-friendly for the constituents and the budding entrepreneurs. There's no standard process. They go from one place to the next, with the next to the one place, and giving different answers. So the process to start a new business can be a deterrent for you to continue on with the process. So my plan is to standardize it in what I would like to be called as the city repair enhancement process, and prioritize those things that we're failing by gathering data and placing resources on where we're weak at and make it strong.
All right, the business-friendly question, Ms. Morales.
I do think that the process for small businesses is a little cumbersome. I know that there has probably been some obstacles to overcome in turnover with city employees. If you have someone who's been there for a really long time and knows the process and has it streamlined, it is much easier to get through and get your business license through that way. So I think that what we really need to do is work in retaining the right people in the right positions to make sure that when small businesses do come for their license and try and stay compliant, that they know who to go and ask. They know that the person that they're going to ask is knowledgeable in the area of small business licenses, and that they will get the help that they're looking for.
All right, our next question, Caitlin Heck and Mr. Mack. You will go first on this one.
Well, we've talked a lot about bringing businesses to Warner Robins through a downtown or a city center. Is that something that you think is actually feasible? And if you do, what does that look like to you?
Well, what I have dreamed about is creating a small business incubator and a qualified opportunity zone. And that will assist with attracting those areas in which you mentioned. There are people that are asking questions every day when I'm out and about within the city. What can I do to do this, to be a part of the city in that capacity? And the thing about it is to be engaged and to encourage the constituent to be engaged in those areas of concern, because every issue that we have in the city, from largest to the smallest, is very valid and is very important to me. And I want to be an advocate for the people and all their concerns in that area.
All right, Warner Robins City Center, Ms. Morales.
Could you repeat the question, please?
There's been a lot of talk about you developing a downtown area in Warner Robins. Do you think that's something that is actually feasible? And if so, what would that look like to you?
I 100% believe that that is feasible. I think that the downtown area of Warner Robins is a great place to start. I think that when we talk about building relationships with the base and keeping positive relationships with the base, that the downtown area is a big part of that. Giving people on the base who live and work there, both civilian and military, a place to come to for entertainment, for shopping, just in general, it's going to build stronger relationships in the city with the base. I think it is extremely possible, and I think that there are a lot of people in the city right now who have a lot of really good ideas on how that could look, and I look forward to hearing anybody give any ideas that they have as what they think it would look like.
Mr. Nichols, your turn.
I've been preaching this for a very long time. I am excited about the fact that, yes, I know without a shadow of a doubt it is feasible, it is possible. There are developers, there are people that are ready to go. They just need to have the opportunity to go. They need to be able to get the plans that they have on the table right now and open them up so that we can move forward. And that comes with our city economics. And I'll be honest with you, in times past, that particular department has stood in the way. It is not allowed for those businesses, those developers, those partners to be able to move forward, starting with Commercial Circle, moving all the way down to Armed Forces Boulevard. I believe that we need to move forward and we need to make that happen. It is capable, but that comes from, and I'm very thankful that we have Kate Hogan. Kate Hogan is on fire and she has the knowledge and the capability to make that happen.
All right, our next question from Mr. Danzy and Ms. Morales. You will go first.
So Houston County is booming. Warner Robins is seeing exponential growth, but there's some inequities. How would you attract redevelopment opportunities into areas that have not seen the same level of investment?
That's a good question, and that's a tough question to answer. That is something that I would need to do a little bit more research into, for sure. I know that Houston County and Warner Robins have both grown extreme. And again, we need to get more people involved. We need to get more people involved with their local government. The biggest impact that any person gets in their life is from local government and not necessarily any government outside of that. The biggest impact that we have is directly right here in the city of Warner Robins. And so the more people that we talk to, the more ideas that we get, and we become more aware of what their needs are, and they become more aware of what it is that we're doing for them.
All right, Mr. Nichols, addressing the question about inequities in development.
Okay, very much, and this kind of goes back to where we're at with the downtown development. That area has been left alone for since it was built, to be honest with you. Again, with the North Davis, South Davis Drive, even Green Street, lower Watson Boulevard. I mean, if you start at Houston Road and you go down Watson Boulevard, in all honesty, it really hasn't been touched too much. Now, there are some, Robbins Region Chamber, you've got Parish Construction, you've got some others that have come through here and have really done a fine job on redoing their buildings. I think there needs to be a partnership. I know there's grants out there. I know that we need to help them with not only refurbishing their area, but also with streetscapes. You know, there's lots of partnerships we can do with Flint and some other folks to be able to bring in new lighting and different things. I just think that that can be accomplished. We need to move on it, though, and we've got to have somebody in place.
We'll finish up this question, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir. Warner Robins is a very prosperous city, but there's a side of the city that's living in the shadows of prosperity. If you look at my hand as Warner Robins being a body, one finger is missing. And we need to fix that because, like I said before, we're only as strong as our weakest link. I'm an advocate for that area. I grew up in that area, and I have a vision of what the international city should look like: equity and inclusiveness for everybody. Where you find those blighted areas, you find a trail of millions of dollars. If we can redevelop that area and advocate for people to reinvest in that area, have a diverse community, and we need to show the people there that we care and that we're invested in their daily vision of what their communities look like so that it may resemble the one that's prosperous. Now, we need to create some type of opportunity zone to create a tax base where we can advocate for small businesses to come in and redevelop those areas. I'm a strong advocate for that, but community engagement, green space, and a lot of our areas in that area should be redeveloped and looked at very hard. It should be our priority in this city.
All right, our next question comes from Caitlin Heck, and Mr. Nichols, you'll have this one first.
Code enforcement can be used as a tool, a proactive tool to stabilize neighborhoods. How would you make sure that that department is staffed and has the tools that they need to be effective?
Well, to be honest with you, I can't tell you until I get in there, okay? I do know that they need all the help they can get. They need to be able to go into the areas that have been untouched and not messed with. I believe I've got a plan, and I believe that if there's a building that's been sitting for more than 3 years and nothing's gone into it, I believe that if it's not cleaned up, it needs to go down to the ground. I believe without a shadow of a doubt, if there's a house, but I realize there's so many legalities that come in play in the middle of that cause issues. Here's the thing. We have got to continue to work harder to be able to make sure that we improve those areas. And by leaving buildings such as the old Family Mart building that sit there for 15 years until Walmart came and leveled it and built a Walmart neighborhood grocery store, we've got to be able to do that inside the city and not wait on somebody else to do that.
All right, question about code enforcement, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir. We just recently allocated in our budget to hire more code enforcement officers. I'm engaged with code enforcement as I talk to the officers whenever I see them. If I see them doing their work, I'll stop and communicate with them, and I understand their concerns. We need to really empower them any way that we can. And also, with that being said, as I agree with Mr. Nichols in that area, we have a lot of out-of-town landlords that don't clean up their areas. And if they're leaving it blighted, the city needs to go in, find them, hold them accountable, and if not, we need to assume responsibility of that and create community centers in those areas or whatever we need to do to advocate for that particular blighted area.
All right, we'll finish up the code enforcement question with Ms. Morales.
Well, I am absolutely 100% thrilled that we did receive some additional code enforcement officers in Warner Robins. I know that the code enforcement officers were severely overworked. There are a lot of areas that need to be stabilized in Warner Robins, and I think with the new people coming in, it'll be really a lot easier for our officers to go out and get to maybe understand some of the situations that are in these neighborhoods, not necessarily just going out to hand a letter and say, this is what you're doing wrong. I know that our officers are very friendly. They're very in with the community, and they would like to speak with the citizens and know what it is that they can do to help. And hopefully with the additional officers, we'll be able to, make a little bit more of a cleanup in the area. Helping people do that, not necessarily just telling them and giving them a letter and saying that they have to do that.
All right, our next question from Mr. Danzy, and Mr. Mack, we'll start with you.
So y'all know I'm a banker. So very simple question. How would you maintain fiscal responsibility, and are there any improvements that need to be made in that area?
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is really take a look at all of our assets and manage them better. We need to manage our assets so we can see exactly where we're at fiscally with our funds in all those areas of concern. We can do this, but we have to vet our processes better. We have to prioritize and look at what it is that we have and what's working and what's not working. We need to cut a lot of fat out of our budget and lean out our processes, and I think we'll be fine in that area if we were to do that. But we need to really have the wherewithal and the due diligence to do the research and the audits necessary to be feasibly accomplished in that area.
All right. Fiscal question, Ms. Morales.
Fiscal responsibility, I think we've all had to deal with that recently. I think that there is a lot that I could bring. I'm a regular 99%er. And I know that everybody talks about transparency in government, and I think that is one of the things that we really need to elaborate. We need to make people more aware so that we can be fiscally responsible, we can use our budgets wisely, and we can put them where they need to go. Do we need to cut some of the budget? Probably so. I think everybody in the last year or so has had to do that due to COVID and lack of income. So yes, I think we do need to do that, and I think as City Council and Mayor together should be able to do that and listen to people, what they have to say, where they think it should be, and make them aware. If they don't understand all of the budget, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's bring you to a City Council meeting. Let's make the City Council work for you so that you understand exactly where every penny goes in the city.
All right, we'll finish up fiscal responsibility. Mr. Nichols.
Thinking about fiscal responsibility is a big deal. It's one that you've definitely got to be a city councilman before you can even look at fiscal responsibility. I believe that with my past history, my past resume, I believe that I'm able to do that, working with fellow city councilmen, working with the mayor, the city administrator, and somewhat with the department heads. We've got to make sure that every penny that's being spent inside of those departments are being spent correctly. I don't think we might be doing that. Now, I don't know for sure, but I'm just thinking out loud. There may be money that you can take from one to be able to help another. There may be areas. The only thing is you've only got a certain amount of the pie. Okay, that certain amount of pie, the only way to change that is go up on taxes or reduce where you're spending it. And so I think that we really need to look at every aspect of where the money's going and then see if it's being spent correctly.
All right, next question from Caitlin Heck. Ms. Morales, we'll start with you.
Ms. Morales, you touched on transparency a moment ago. What can Warner Robins do to be more transparent and to also bring more people into the decision-making process?
I do believe that the transparency is it needs to be more. I think that we need to get more people involved. I think that the system itself is not necessarily the most easily laid out. Some people don't understand it, so they have questions about it, and who do they turn to answer those questions? I think the City Council should be forefront in getting out with their constituents, finding the people, the citizens, and talking to them about what it is that they don't understand. How can we bring you in? What is it that we need to do to make you more involved? I also believe that the website, revamping the website is also a good start, as Mr. Mack said, because you try and navigate and maybe you don't necessarily get to where you think you're trying to go. So yeah, absolutely, we need to get more people involved, and that could be done through, through the website, a little easier laid out for people, and definitely talking to everyone in the city.
All right, transparency, Mr. Nichols.
Well, we are a representative type government. We are elected as a city councilman. There's 6 of those. There's one mayor, and then there's now a city administrator. There does need to be voices heard from every constituent that feels like that they want to be a part of that. I'm very proud of what council has done about bringing in the new group that has been put together to be able to have those voices heard, and I hope it is utilized in the way that it seems to be working already. I do know this. You have 100 people in a room, you can't listen to all 100 people. You can't. So that's why you need to be involved with the people that are on city council to make sure that your voice is heard through them. Because everybody's not going to be heard. You already get the opportunity to come to city council and be heard there, and I'll be honest with you, it's very minute of the people that come there already. They need to be more involved.
All right, government transparency. Finish up this question with Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir. With the work that the city administrator has done, we've created what we like to call, it's called a citizens advisory board, where each one of the councilmen has appointed someone so that we can be in communication with people directly with the community, and it's working. They're vetting their concerns. They're talking directly to us so that we can address them appropriately. One thing that I would like to see is during the council meeting, I would like to see more involvement from the citizens and open our chambers back up. And if we can't do it at City Hall, we need to probably utilize the Civic Center and while practicing social distancing so that everyone can have their voice be heard. But that Citizens Advisory Board through Engage Warner Robins is the best thing we've done since I've been on council, because people, there are applications on the website. If you want to be involved, fill out that application and throw your name in the hat, because we still have a few positions left so that you can be an advocate for this community in which you live and represent.
All right, we have time for one more question. That question will come from Mr. Danzy, and we'll start with Mr. Nichols.
So, what can the city do to support Robins Air Force Base, and could the city do anything differently to better capitalize on the base's economic impact?
That's a great question. I appreciate that, and I'll be honest with you. We're doing everything that we can to partner with Robins Air Force Base. I am very proud, as I said in my opening, I'm very proud to be a part of the community and the Robins Air Force Base leadership coming together and learning from each other. I love the opportunity to sit with my partner over on the base, Chief Labrador, and be able to sit down with him at lunch and find out what we need to do. I'll be honest with you, there's still stringent controls that are in place because of what we've gone through the last year and a half that are causing that to not be able to happen like we should. I do know when I was a city councilman, man, there was great meetings that were had in prior years that were able to open up more conversation and be able to work closer. I think we're listening to them. I think they're listening to us, and they're giving us good feedback. I think we need to continue to do that in a very profound way to not lose that partnership.
All right, Robins Air Force Base Partnership, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir. I'm a 25-year employee of Robins Air Force Base. I talk to the leaders on a daily basis as I work in a very rigid pace with the F-15 functional test 561st Maintenance Squadron. I have communicated those concerns in trying to strengthen our relationship with Robins, as Robins Air Force Base is one of the greatest assets in the state of Georgia, and they're right here in our backyard. And to be honest, I don't think we've done enough to strengthen that relationship, because if you go on the website, GMA website, we're supposed to be redeveloping the G-ramp process, which is a joint use of the runway. And I do understand that some of the missions at Robins has changed, so there are some restrictions there. But if we could advocate for a G-ramp, that's something that's supposed to be ongoing at this point, I think it would even develop a mission partnership that will really enhance our community, our growth, economic base, which we need desperately. We have approximately 93 acres that we purchased north of the runway that's supposed to help us with that process. We just need to meet at the table to discuss it and put that plan to work.
All right, we'll finish up this question. Robins Air Force Base, Ms. Morales.
Robins Air Force Base, it's, in our name. Absolutely. I think that one of the things that we could do to strengthen some relationships with Warner Robins Air Force Base is to possibly bring back some town hall meetings, communicate with leadership on base, communicate with leadership of our city. We need to be there needs to be a back and forth. We need to know what it is that they need. They need to know what it is that we need, or the expectations from both sides. Again, I think that we can foster a lot of relationship by providing something to the base. Commercial Circle, straight down to Armed Forces Boulevard. Refurbish that, build it up, and make it a community that the base wants to be involved in and with. And again, town hall meetings. Listen to what it is that they need. Listen to what it is that they have to say.
All right, we're going to finish this up. Again, Warner Robins City Council, District 1 citywide, with closing statements. 1 minute. Mr. Nichols, you will start first.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm honored to be a candidate. I am not running against these two people. I am applying for a job. I've got a resume of service. I want you to look at my resume and see if that's what you want to be able to sit in the post of Post 1 City Council of Warner Robins, Georgia. I ask for your vote, but I first ask you to go out and vote. We need you to be engaged, and the way you do that is by placing your voice behind your vote. It is ongoing right now of early voting, but November the 2nd is the date that you go out and vote. And I'm asking you, please get out of your house, go and place your vote on November the 2nd.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. 1 minute closing statement.
Well, 1 minute isn't really a lot of time to give a closing statement, so I definitely want to say that there is a lot more that I want to hear from the citizens of Warner Robins, and there's a lot more that I have to say that I would like to try and implement into the position as well. So I urge you, please go to Facebook, go to Leslie M. for City Council. My phone number is on there. Give me a call. Let's text. Let's find out what it is that you want, and hopefully what I have to say will be something that you are looking to hear, and hopefully you will vote for me on November 2nd.
And we'll finish up closing statements. Mr. Mack.
Thank you. As the incumbent candidate since March, I've learned a lot. It's a learning curve, but I've learned a lot, and I've learned what this city needs. This city needs community engagement. I want to represent you as I'm a constituent first, but I'm a liaison of the people of this city at City Hall. I want to represent you. I consider myself to be the all-access, all-inclusive candidate of choice. I want to continue to do the hard work for you as you, the people, are the most important part of this process. I want to encourage you to go out and vote November 2nd. It's the most important right that you have, is to have your voice be heard and have someone represent and listen to the needs that you have, not just during the election cycle, but during the entire time that they're in office. And I'm the person that's willing to do that, as I choose to carry the burden of responsibility of this post. I'm not interested in any other boards or committees. I want to give my main focus to post one, which is a citywide at-large position that represents every citizen of this international city.
And we want to thank our three candidates for City Council District 1 here in Warner Robins, Derek Mack, Leslie Morales, and John Nichols, for taking their time to be with us. We want to thank Caitlin Heck and David Nancy, our panelists, for asking the questions. Again, as we heard, early voting runs through October 29th. Election Day is November 2nd. Take what you have learned and use that as you cast your votes. And thank you. Hello and welcome to the Warner Robins Political Forum. We're pleased to have you with us. It is sponsored by Robins Regional Chamber, presented by 13 WMAZ. I'm Frank Malloy, glad to have you with us. We now have our three candidates for mayor of Warner Robins. That is the incumbent Randy Toms, the challengers Stephen Baughier and LaRhonda Patrick. We certainly appreciate them taking their time to be with us today to share their views on the city, where it stands now, and what they hope to see in the future. We're also pleased to welcome our panelists, 13 WMAZ morning anchor Caitlin Heck and David Danzy. He is the chair-elect of Robins Regional Chamber. He is also the vice president of Cadence Banking. We definitely appreciate them taking their time to be with us. We hope you learned something over the next hour as we present this forum to us. Keep in mind that early voting is going on right now. It will run through October 29th, and Election Day, November the 2nd, so there's not that much time. So this is certainly a very timely forum. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started right now. Opening statements. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes for your opening statement. We're going to go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with opening statements. 2 minutes. Mr. Baughier, we'll begin with you.
Thank you, Mr. Malloy. Good evening. Thank you to the Robins Chamber for hosting and 13 WMAZ for putting this on. Thank you to all the viewers. We are at a time now where we are divided more than ever as a people, as a country, and you know, we're divided by race. We're being divided by religion. We're divided in this town by North and South, and unfortunately, when we are divided, we get gridlock and we cannot move forward together to solve problems that we all face. I look around the city as a longtime citizen, called Warner Robins home for 40 years. And I see the same things you see. Like you, I see parts of the city that don't seem to be getting the attention that it needs. Like you, I read the headlines about lawsuits. Like you, I might have some doubts about the direction that the city's headed. So I chose to be part of the solution. That's why I'm running for mayor. I believe that if we can focus on being less divided and come together as mayor, as city council, as city staff, as residents, if we can all come together, north and south, sides of town, then we can work together. And I ask you for your support and to work with me to help solve the problems that we're going to talk about tonight that the city faces. Thank you.
All right, 2 minute opening statement, Ms. Patrick.
Good evening. I am LaRhonda Patrick, and I aim to be the next mayor of Warner Robins. I am a mother, an attorney, a public servant, and a small business owner. I stand for transparency, community, and legacy, and I aim to make Warner Robins the best of the best by evolving it forward. My journey began back in 2005. That's when I found out what my why is when it comes to running for this office. I was working at the General Assembly for the House of Representatives and also the State Senate. And it was there I realized the reality of the legislative process and that the people, the good of the people, is not always on the agenda. And at that moment, I knew my future would be in political office. I did not know it would be today, and I did not know it would be for the office of mayor. But I've realized the importance of local government, and that is what impacts our lives more than national, and also more than state. I have experience at the city, state, and federal levels of government, working with heads of federal agencies, Fortune 500 executives, negotiation and management of over $250 million worth of contracts for federal government and also commercial companies across the nation. This experience will allow us to define a new future for our city. After starting my career in DC, I came back to Warner Robins to invest in my community. And I saw that not much had changed here. It would look almost the same as it did while I was at Tabor Middle School, sitting at the desk. So now I come to you as a candidate for mayor, and I vow to be transparent about community and also about improving the quality of life. I am LaRhonda Patrick, your next mayor of Warner Robins.
And we'll conclude our opening statements. 2 minutes, Mr. Toms.
Hey, I'm Randy Toms, and I'm the mayor of the city of Warner Robins now. I grew up here. I moved to Warner Robins in 1960. That's the year I was born, and my dad was already working at Robins Air Force Base. In fact, we lived in the neighborhood right here behind the chamber, and I grew up there for the first 17 years of my life. I met a young lady when I was at Tabor Junior High at the time, and after high school, I went into the Air Force. I spent one term in the Air Force, got out, came home, was able to convince that young lady I met at Tabor to be my wife, and we got married in 1982, and so this past July we celebrated 39 years of marriage, and I'm very blessed to have her in my life. In 1985, I got a job with the Warner Robins Fire Department, mainly because I was looking for a job. But when I did, I found my passion at the time, and that was to serve the citizens of Warner Robins. And I did it, and I did it well for 27 years. There was a time when I decided I needed to look into serving the city at a higher capacity, and because I wanted a city that I could be proud of and that I could be proud to leave my children. I have 2 children. My wife and I have 2 children that are both married, and we have 6 grandchildren. Each of my children have 3, so we have 6 grandchildren, and all of my children live right here local. So my focus is to make sure that I've done everything I can do, and I have, to leave the city of Warner Robins in better condition than when I took over. We've done a lot in the last 8 years that I've been your mayor. I look forward to serving you for the next 4 years as your mayor. I ask for your support and your vote on November the 2nd so that we can continue moving Warner Robins forward.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your opening statements. We'll now start the question and answer portion right now. Our first question will come from Caitlin Heck. Ms. Patrick, you will go first on this.
Warner Robins has grown tremendously, and you can see it in the 2020 census numbers. How well do you think city services are keeping up with that growth, and what can be done to prepare for future growth?
Well, growth is important, and we need our city to grow to protect the investments we've all made in our homes, in our schools, in our education, and on our careers. When it comes to the growth here in Warner Robins, we need to update our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is behind when it comes to our growth, and we will do just that when I am your mayor. We will evaluate all of our utilities to make sure that our sewer system is strong enough, because it's currently at capacity, to make sure that our water is not continuing to leak in different communities. We will also do things like make sure we incorporate a recycling program so our children will understand what they're learning and they can practice what they're learning about recycling in our community. So as your mayor, we will make sure our infrastructure is current with our growth. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Tom, it's your turn to answer the question.
Yeah, I think to answer the question, I think the city services have kept up pretty well. I think we are, in fact, and that's the good thing about me running for re-election is that I don't have to tell you what I'm going to do. I have to tell you that I'm going to keep doing what we've already done, and that is that we have begun the work of expanding our services in certain parts of our town. We're having more trouble in the newer parts of town than we are the older parts of town because of the material that was used in some of that. So we're looking at some of those ways. We're also in partnership with the county and some of our water systems, and we're looking at capitalizing on working with them and helping those improve. But we're also expanding our water capability on our own in the Peach County side of town that's going to focus and take a lot of the pressure off of the Houston County side of Warner Robins. So we're doing a great job. We have reduced our number of leaks tremendously. During COVID and during the manpower shortage, they did get a little bit ahead of us. And so now we have done a great job of putting the resources together to make sure that we're catching up on that. Our services are great, and I look forward to moving into the future.
All right, Warner Robins Growth City Services. Mr. Baughier will finish the question with you.
Hi. I think that the headlines that we've read sort of are in disagreement of the statement that city services have been keeping up very well. We've had Public Service Commission come out, make reports, fines, fine the city for having dangerous gas leaks. And this was years ago that this happened, and it was just, and so what I would like to really want to work on moving forward is Mr. Toms mentioned expanding the infrastructure, and I want to focus more on maintaining the infrastructure that we have before annexing and creating more future obligations for our children as taxpayers of the city.
All right, next question will come from Mr. Danzy, and we'll start with Mayor Toms will answer first.
So, Houston County is booming. Warner Robins' growth is exponential. I think we would all agree, but there are some inequities. And so the question is, how would you attract redevelopment opportunities into areas that have not seen the same level of investment as others?
Yeah, I think that's another question that I'm proud to answer, and that is not what I would do, but what I've been doing. And that is that I have been focused on the north side of town. I built, and I heard an earlier comment, it was actually more like $32 million of investment that we put on as far north as you can get and still be in Warner Robins. And I believe that that's going to drive growth, drive redevelopment in that part of town. It was something that the citizens asked for. It was something that we as mayor and council, me particularly, pushed for that so that we could get the sports complex and some of the facilities we have on the north side of town. And I think we're very close to seeing some downtown development in what we know, those of us that's been around for a long time, as our old downtown. I think we're really close to seeing local developers who are interested in developing downtown. So we've been focused on moving forward with our north side of town. I grew up right behind this building here. I am a north side of town person, and I still have fond memories of this side of town, and I want to see it revitalized, and that's what we're going to do.
Mr. Boyer, you're trying to answer the question.
Thank you. So revitalization is obviously very much needed, especially in some certain parts of town that it's not hard to identify with a short drive, around Watson, Davis, North Houston. And what I would like to do is focus on bringing large developments in, but also don't forget that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can take action on as far as incremental changes that we can lift up the older parts of town, paint on buildings, taking care of the lots, making certain parts of town commercially more attractive to those small businesses that we're trying to attract, and to eventually bring the certain areas up, make it more attractive, and then meet in the middle. And so what I like to say is that we can revitalize downtown, the downtown area. We can revitalize any of these blighted areas that we see, and if we just focus on building from the bottom up. Thank you.
All right, we'll finish the question about inequities in the city. Ms. Patrick.
New investment is extremely important for us. We have seen our city be left behind by surrounding cities year after year after year. There's no reason, with the growth that we have, the growth that we see, why our city is still looking pretty much the same. We need to utilize our public-private partnerships and do some more development, actually develop a downtown area or a city center that will allow us to have green space, live, work, play communities, bike-friendly, scooter-friendly, senior citizen-friendly, need walkable space. There are so many things that we can do here, and we're missing out on opportunities because our neighbors are getting developments that we are not even on the menu for, because we don't have what they're looking for. We also need to be a smart city. That's going to help us bring in industry. The smart city finishes first. Thank you.
Our next question will come from Caitlin Heck, and we'll start this one with Mr. Boyer.
There's been a lot of talk about developing a downtown or a city center in Warner Robins. What needs to be done to make that a reality, and how important is it to the future of Warner Robins?
It is very important to the future of Warner Robins, because as citizens, that's something that we've been hearing for the last 20 years. And in the amount of time it's taken Centerville to basically build a whole city, we're still looking at the area, a commercial circle that most people would consider downtown, and there hasn't changed much there in 20 years. So what I think needs to be done in order for us to make progress to have a downtown or a city center would be to first focus on commercial circle, find out what the barriers in the past have been, why that has not been developed, and you know, if it turns out that that is still a great location to have a downtown or city center, then we need to start pushing in that direction. Whether if that ends up being not the ideal place for a downtown for Warner Robins, then we will identify a place and begin to develop that. But I would say that that doesn't mean that we still do not incrementally develop the existing commercial circle. Thank you.
All right, question about the city center, Ms. Patrick.
We all enjoy taking part in activities that occur in cities that surround us. We love going to Macon when they have their Friday nights, when they have their different festivals. Centerville has them, Perry has them. We don't have them here at home. And that's what we all are asking for. The demand is there, the space is there, the need is there. We just need the platform to do so. We've heard the same promises, and we get the same results. Nothing's happened. And 20 years since I've graduated high school, and I still can't go and walk downtown and enjoy some green space and go to some mom and pop type shops and, you know, ride a bike with my son and sit down and listen to live music, live band or amphitheater. There are so many opportunities, and we can do this by having incentives like our tax allocation districts that bring industries in for lower taxes.
We'll finish the question about City Senate with Mr. Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, this is a question I've been looking forward to, because the fact is that we have the perfect opportunity to have a city center built around something that's already in place, that's an iconic place in the city of Warner Robins, and that's Perkins Field. We do not need to build apartments on Perkins Field at all. But yet we had a development authority was basically giving away prime property for us to build an amphitheater, build a green space, build a walking trail, build family fun areas, put food trucks, have those kind of environments here in Warner Robins. So I'm excited to know that in the next 4 years, we're going to take Perkins Field, we're going to make it Perkins Field Plaza, and we're going to turn it into a family-friendly amphitheater, entertainment venue of one district, and then throughout the town, we're going to have different districts, because that's how we grew. And we're going to take advantage of the different spaces that we have throughout our city, but we are going to develop a downtown, and we're going to do it by driving people downtown with those kind of environments that people want to see, that we've been held up on because of a lawsuit that was unnecessary.
I continue with question and answer. Mr. Danzy with the next question. Ms. Patrick, you will answer first.
So this is a two-part question. Do you consider Warner Robins, specifically government and our licensing process, business-friendly? And then what steps would you take to make it more attractive for emerging entrepreneurs to make their businesses legally compliant with local requirements?
That's a very complex question, Mr. Danzy, but thank you for asking that. I am a small business owner, so having efficient processes for doing business at the city level is extremely important. And many of us have the same struggle. When the pandemic hit, no one's in the office. We don't have our things online. We don't have easy access to do business matters with the city virtually. So we were at a standstill on some things. We have to initiate having a smart city. Our smart city is what's going to bring us to the 21st century. We can't keep living in the 20th century when it comes to technology, because it's costing small businesses and large businesses money. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Thomas, your turn to answer the question.
Yeah, I think since I've been in office, I think we've become a lot more business friendly. That was one of my goals. In fact, that's what I came in telling the Building and Transportation Department and the engineers, that I want business friendly in the city of Warner Robins. So I think we've improved in that. We certainly didn't plan on a global pandemic. And so there were some things that we had to quickly adjust to in order to make things happen and continue to happen. But we must have done a pretty good job of it, because we grew in businesses and homes at an incredible rate, even during a global pandemic. But to continue to throw out the term, we need to be a smart city, is focusing on one company that came in here and didn't do what they said they were going to do, and the Development Authority of Warner Robins gave them $2.5 million to not do it. And so there are other areas that we're working on right now in order to take advantage of smart city initiatives. You don't just go out there and become a smart city. You develop smart city initiatives, and we are already doing that. And so I'm excited about the future that we have and what we're doing in all of those initiatives.
All right, we'll finish up this question with Mr. Baughier.
As a small business owner myself, I understand starting a business from an idea that you might have to forming the entity, to marketing, to having enough capital to keep your business going long enough before it becomes sustainable and a very successful business. That is a tough road for small businesses. Most small businesses don't last more than 5 years. So having support system there for small businesses locally is very important. What that looks like is having a team, potentially working with nonprofits who are motivated to help. I would say Chamber is a perfect example of a network of businesses where you have a support system where you can hold the hand of business owners through the process. Because just because you have a great business idea, you do not want to see, if you have a great business idea, you do not want to see that idea like not come to fruition because of hurdles. Thank you.
All right, our next question will come from Mr. Dancy and is directed to Mayor Toms first.
So let's talk about community and economic development. The city recently restructured and combined these departments under new experienced leadership. So how can Warner Robins continue to promote new growth while also supporting our existing businesses? And what role does the mayor and council play in this area?
Well, I think we allow the person that we hired to do this position to do what she's done in other places. It's already been mentioned what a great job Centerville did in their Center Park. And that's who we hired, Kate Hogan. And she's very educated, she's very knowledgeable of some of the incentives that are available that have not been made use of in the city of Warner Robins. And she's already starting to, in the baseball terms of a game going on tonight, she's already starting to knock the ball out of the park. And so I'm excited about the work that Kate's bringing to the city of Warner Robins. And that drives my excitement towards what's going to happen downtown. She's already talking to developers. She's already talking to the community that is serviced by community development. So she's taken on both roles in a dynamic, incredible way to work with some of the organizations that we're funding to find out what they're doing and can they do it better. And so that's how we can do it, is get behind, as mayor and council, we get behind the directors and the personnel that we put in place to get the job done.
All right, promoting growth. Mr. Baughier, your turn to answer the question.
I think we kind of touched on it earlier. Promoting growth means you're going to have to be attractive to businesses. We need to clean up certain areas of town, attract businesses, which will also attract customers. And I mean, it's not that difficult. Like I said earlier, we have low-hanging fruit. A lot of these questions are sort of connected. Economy, business, revitalization, all of that is connected. And later on, we'll probably talk about crime. That's connected too. So I would say, just look around the city, see what is in demand, reach out to those types of businesses and say, these are the services that are in demand here, and this is how we can make it more attractive to you as a business. But in the meantime, do all of the little things that we can do that are very obvious as far as cleaning up, enforcing codes, and making certain parts of town more attractive for businesses to come in.
And we'll finish up the question with Ms. Patrick.
Once again, this is an example of Warner Robins being left behind. We have cities that are smaller than us that appear so much more mighty because they have the resources, they have the expertise in-house that has allowed them to surpass us when it comes to the growth that we need to have here in our city. We have the people, we have the numbers, but we don't have the development that matches it. So having a mayor who understands corporate America, who understands how to speak to executives of Fortune 500 companies, to talk to them and negotiate the best incentive packages, to bring them to our city, that's what we're going to have to do to bring about growth. There are a number of things that we can do and that we're missing out on doing, but not only having the wonderful lady that works with the city as my opponent described, but we have great public-private partnerships that's going to help us do this with different incentive packages that's going to bring them to our city.
All right, our next question from Mr. Danzy, and Mr. Baughier, you will go first on this one.
I promise I'm not going to ask all the questions, okay? Let's talk about blight a little bit. Neighboring communities have made great strides in eradicating blight in certain residential neighborhoods. What would you implement in order to make sure the city of Warner Robins continues to stabilize all our local neighborhoods?
All right, we've been talking about blight for years, and oftentimes we don't see much in terms of improving it. For example, current leadership boasted one weekend that they put 2 dumpsters out for a weekend. Said anybody can come use these dumpsters. That's an $800 line item. It costs $400 to deliver and empty a dumpster. It's an $800 line item on a $140 million city budget. That's nothing to be proud about. So what we need to do is we need to have more areas, make that more accessible where people can take their trash, where they don't have to drive down 247 to the dump. If you make things more convenient, then people will use them. The other thing is we need to make sure that code enforcement does have all the resources that they need, and that the city is not hesitant to enforce the violations of those codes. Thank you.
Question is concerning blight, Ms. Patrick.
Blight is something that we all see. We notice it on certain areas of town, and it's time for something to change. Another example, same problem, same promise, same result. I will ensure that our blight issue finally gets resolved. There was a study done some years ago on blight. A group came in, they did the study on the blight, took pictures, nothing happened. They came again, same thing, nothing happened. We taxpayers continue to make investments in these types of studies, and we're not getting the increased property taxes where the blight exists. We're going to start doing something about this by having policies and initiating programs and empowering our code enforcement that's going to help us along the way.
All right, we'll finish up the blight question with Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, here's a fact, and that is that we've done a whole lot more with blight over the last 8 years than people know we have, because it's a popular subject to talk about. Blight is a buzzword, and it's real, but it's certainly a political word to use. But we have spent a lot of money on taking care of some of the blighted issues. Not just Warner Robins, but Houston County, in partnership with some of the other counties as well, have cleaned up a lot of the blight in certain parts of our town. What we needed to do is we needed to add more code enforcement officers so that we could go out there and hold people accountable and responsible for their own property. And so we have been working over the last several years with 3 code enforcement officers. Today, we have 8 code enforcement officers in place. So that's more than double the manpower in code enforcement than we've had in ever. And so we are moving forward with blight. It is something we took seriously. The city itself did not bring these studies in and not listen to them. It was the Development Authority that did.
All right, we're more than halfway through our question and answer session. Next question will come from Caitlin Heck, and Ms. Patrick, you will go first on this one.
Now, we do want to talk about the issue of crime. What measures would you take to reduce crime and violence in the city? And is there something that needs to be done differently?
Yes, crime is something that I was speaking with someone recently, and they said, what is the number one thing we need to fix in Warner Robins? And I said, well, I love this city. I always have. But if I could say there was one dark cloud over our city that everyone can see, that's going to be our crime. Our crime has increased significantly over the past few years. And many will answer by saying we need more police officers. I don't believe that is the answer. As a mother who has a child who she wants to keep safe at all times, and I know many of you have the same thing, We need to start doing something different when it comes to solving our crime issue before it gets out of hand like some surrounding cities, which I won't call their names. We need to make sure we're doing some involvement, which is old school, neighborhood watch programs, liaisons in different communities, also youth education, WAVE, DARE, school resource officers, street law, which is a program I'm going to implement. So as your mayor, we're going to fix this issue.
All right, the crime question, Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I do think that a lot of it has to do with law enforcement. That's why I've added 20 positions in the last 8 years, and I think that's a big deal. And I think that crime is on the uptick, and it's on the uptick all over the United States. Just saw a program on that just the other day. So we're not alone in that, and to think that we would be fooling ourselves. And so we do need a bigger police presence, and that's what I've provided over the last years. But we are also making investments in things like Family Counseling Center and NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Illness, which is a part of the big deal. And then we're Boys and Girls Clubs. So we are making, through the Community Development Block Grant funding, we are making investments in these kind of programs to try to keep it from being a police issue to start with. But I will always believe that a police presence is important in the community in order to maintain law and order. And so therefore my focus has been on building our police department up to a standard that they can do the work that needs to be done in our community and keep us safe.
All right, we'll finish up the crime question with Mr. Baughier.
Hi, I'm going to agree with both of them on this. I do believe police are important and that we need to communicate with the chief. He's the expert. He understands what he needs, what resources he needs to regarding staffing, equipment, vehicles. He knows what he needs, and so we need to make sure that we get him what he needs. But that's on one end of the crime. There's another, like Ms. Patrick said, there are a lot of factors that go into crime. We've talked about revitalization. We've talked about attracting businesses. What comes with those things are economic opportunities for our citizens, jobs. There's obviously a correlation between poverty and crime. And the better our citizens are financially, the less crime we will have. So in addition to that, I would also like to use my platform as mayor to provide financial services, personal financial education services to anyone in the city that needs it. Thank you.
Our next question will come from Mr. Danzy, and Mayor Thomas, you'll start first on this one.
So what role do you envision for the newly formed Public Safety Committee?
Yeah, I think that the idea of the Public Safety Committee is to communicate with our chiefs in each of our departments, and not just when you talk about public safety, you're talking about really all the departments hand in hand. And so in the meetings we have had, the focus is to communicate with our chiefs especially and find out what do they need, how is their manpower going, what can we do to help them recruit and maintain people and retain people. And we've done that. A lot of the work has been done already in that regard by instituting a pay scale system that gives them more money. And so every year they get a raise. And that didn't happen when I was in the fire department, I can tell you. So communicating with our public safety departments, especially police and fire, to find out what are their needs and how can we work towards the future of maintaining their needs as we move forward. So it's a great committee, and I'm looking forward to using it more in the future.
Talking about the Public Safety Committee, Mr. Baughier.
Right, honestly, there's a Public Safety Committee, there's another committee. It seems like in the last 2 months there's been all these committees being formed. And it's just interesting that here, just a few months before the election, all of these committees are being formed. I don't understand why the need for all of these committees if the job of leadership has been being done so well for the last 7-8 years. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Public Safety Committee, public safety, police, fire department. Obviously, we need them, and we're going to communicate, like Mayor said. I mean, that's what we have to do. We just have to communicate with those in the know and those leaderships in those departments and make sure that they have all the resources they need. But I also want people to understand that it is important for not just the city and public safety heads to communicate, but also for the community to understand what's going on. Thank you.
We'll finish up the public safety immediate question with Ms. Patrick.
Yes. Safety is something that we all need. It's extremely important for us who are raising our families here in Warner Robins. And I back the blue. I support our police officers. I work with them. I work with police chief, firemen, police officers, and I understand and I acknowledge their importance. So when it comes to the Public Safety Committee, I know this is a new committee that many of us are just starting to understand what that means for our city. But I've had this, what I'm about to tell you, on my platform for months now, before I learned about this committee. But we all have the same, it sounds like we have the same interest when it comes to the purpose. But I would say for the Public Safety Committee, I'm going to have a liaison. Not sure if that's what that has or not, but my platform will have a liaison in the community that people know, like, and trust, and they will communicate with our public safety through that liaison so the community trusts that something's being done and they can also see something being done.
All right, we'll now go on to our next question, Caitlin Heck, and we'll start this question with Mr. Baughier.
Well, let's talk about Robins Air Force Base. It is the economic engine of Middle Georgia with a $3.54 billion impact, 25,000 people going in and out of those gates every day. What can the city do to better support Robins Air Force Base? And conversely, could the city do anything differently to better capitalize on the base's impact?
Well, I myself have served on Robins Air Force Base. I worked at the 94th Aerial Port Squadron for 6 years as a reservist. I would say, as a mayor, what you do is you establish relationship with leadership on base. You connect leadership on base, and you connect them with community leaders, business leaders, and educational institutions here in the city, so to make sure that the city is able to provide the needs of the base, and that the base can and that they can benefit from what the base offers to keep the base money here within the city. Another thing that the city should be doing, they may already be, but I would like to make sure that we are, is working with the base to market the city for the employees. We have a lot of people who work on base but do not live in the city, and I would make it a priority to ensure that the city is marketed in a positive way to attract employees to reside within city limits.
All right, Robins Air Force Base question, Ms. Patrick.
The military is extremely important to my family, my upbringing. I come from a very strong military family. I am the wife of a service-disabled veteran, 82nd Airborne. My father served at Robins Air Force Base and retired there after 22 years of service. My grandfathers are 2 Vietnam vets. My brother is actively serving, just moved to Robins Air Force Base last month, and he is a wounded warrior. Our veterans need more services from our city, and we also need to have a leader who understands the importance of our military leaders here at Robins Air Force Base, because we're missing opportunities to do things in partnership together, having them. We don't even always know things that's going on at the base that impact our city. And we're going to have that open communication to ensure that we're capitalizing on all opportunities. Thank you.
And we'll finish the question about Robins Air Force Base with Mayor Thoms.
Yeah, I can tell you there's never been a leader. There's never been a mayor in the city of Warner Robins that's had a better relationship with the leadership at Robins Air Force Base than me. I have consistently, for the last 8 years, been in very close relationships with all the generals, all the colonels, all the commanders, the chaplains. I was part of the group that started the Clergy Summit several years ago, which fed into the Human Needs Coalition, which is a great organization in the city of Warner Robins that puts needs out there in front of people. That was something that the chaplains came to me and asked me to help them get started, and we did. And so I am very proud of the work I've done in establishing and maintaining a relationship with the leadership at Robins Air Force Base. And I think it is very important that we continue to provide them everything they ask for. We're cell phones away. Anytime they need me, anytime I need them, we communicate, and it's been that way for the last 8 years. And we've also been in very good partnerships with them with our educational opportunities here in the city of Warner Robins and some of the initiatives they started even with the Low Synergy Center, and it's an incredible thing that happens with Robins and Robins Air Force Base.
Next question comes from Mr. Danzy, and we'll start with Ms. Patrick on this one.
So let's talk about transportation. For a community our size, diverse and accessible methods of transportation are a must. How would you continue or improve upon the existing transit opportunities in Warner Robins?
I'll first start by saying I haven't seen any transit opportunities in the city of Warner Robins. I don't know that they exist. I'm sure some of you feel the exact same way. I used to see a little bus that went around. I never saw anyone on it. I'm quite sure people do get on it. But I say all this to say, if we have a transit system, it's not effective because we don't know that it exists. So we have to have one that's implemented, and I would prefer that it be green energy for our bus system. And we need to also make sure we're having more walkable areas for people who may not have access to the transportation, but they can easily get to their grocery stores, doctor's appointments, meetings, jobs, schools, etc.
Transportation question for Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, I will admit that that's a very difficult hurdle to cross in the city of Warner Robins. The way city of Warner Robins was built and the way it grew doesn't lend itself to mass transit like other cities do. There's also the opportunity of funding it. Where does that come from? Because if you take a look at what Macon Bibb does, they do it as a whole county-wide. And we don't do that here. The whole crux falls on the city of Warner Robins, and we don't have the ability to do that. Not to mention that our main thoroughfare is a state highway, and it causes issues in that regard. And we have tried to work with some of the smaller agencies that have tried to come in here and start transit. We even fund some of the smaller organizations that do provide transportation for some of the more needy people, either medically or financially, to get them to places. So we do things that sometimes people don't see, but they're available, they're a phone call away, and so it's just a tough situation. And even talking with the base leadership, not just here, but nationwide, they realize that it's a tough nut to crack here in the city of Warner Robins.
Transportation question. We'll finish up with Mr. Baughier.
Thank you. Mr. Toms is right. The city just isn't laid out for mass transit the way we typically think. Of a bus, a bunch of people standing by a bus stop because they just came out of their apartment buildings, or they're in a shopping center and they're going back home. People aren't going to collect at a bus stop here because bus stop, it could be 2 miles away from their house. So he's right about that, and that's why Ms. Patrick hasn't seen it because I don't think that it works here. We do have a Warner Robins Transit Authority, and speaking with one of the ladies who run that, she said in order to get a ride, you need to call 48 hours in advance. And that's just not acceptable. I think people expect something different. So what I would suggest is maybe have a city-sponsored ride share app where we can provide public transportation with a small amount of initial capital outlay because the people already have cars, and we can circulate that money through the economy that way. Thank you.
Our next question from Caitlin Heck, and we'll start this one with Mayor Thomas.
Let's talk about animal control. Some say it is a challenge in Warner Robins. What would you do to make sure that this department is operating more efficiently?
Well, we have tried to institute better pay for our animal control officers to try to attract more qualified individuals. We've also tried to work with the county and the other cities in which we take their animals because the cost is overwhelming. And so right now we're in negotiations with the county and with the city of Centerville about at least, it hadn't been, the contract hadn't been negotiated in 7 or 8 years, and so we're trying to get it to where we can at least cover our cost. We get a lot of support from stores that have left, older food, dog food and cat food and stuff like that. So we're doing everything that we can. But I also have a city attorney that animal control and animal needs are top on her list. And so she's working diligently with me and with the chairman of the Houston County to try to find a way that we can more adequately provide the animal services and even some out-of-the-box ways so that we can contain some of the cat issues that we have in the city of Warner Robins. We're looking at it diligently. It's just another tough issue.
Talking about animal control, Mr. Baughier?
Yeah, it is a tough issue. I mean, we like our pets, and we don't want to see bad things happen to animals that are even just stray or feral. So that's tough. It's tough, and I haven't really researched the creative ways to handle this type of problem. But I would imagine that we could be more aggressive in spaying and neutering, encouraging that process to happen as people get pets. I've heard of a term called catch, neuter, and release, something like that, or catch. So that could be something there that could maybe curb the feral cat population that Mr. Toms references. So definitely, just be creative, pull in experts, look at cities or other places that have dealt with this sort of issue in the past in a successful manner, and just work with them and implement some of their practices for our city.
All right, and we'll finish up animal control with Ms. Patrick.
There are many pet lovers out there right now. My family is actually in search of a pet as we speak, so I understand. I actually had a conversation with two ladies who shared their story when it comes to animal policies here in our city. Miss Joanne and Miss Shirley, they rescue animals on their own, out of their own pocket. And they told me there's a huge issue with people that are rescuing these stray animals, which people are calling to complain to our animal control about, but they're getting arrested. These women are being arrested for helping with these animals because there is a limit on the number of animals you can have in your home, which I completely understand. But here's what we need to do. We need to have a ordinance or a policy that would allow for fostering an animal rescue in our city, but it needs to be organized. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ensure we have that so that the animal problem gets under control, and then we'll also have a plan on getting them out of our cities to safe, loving homes. Pet friendly is on the menu. Thank you.
Have time for maybe two more questions. Caitlin will ask this next one, and Mr. Boyer will go first.
Now, this is on fiscal integrity. How would you maintain fiscal responsibility, and what, if any, improvements would you like to see beyond what is currently being done?
All right, so I have an accounting education, accounting background, so working with the budget will not be intimidating at all. It's not to say that I'll know everything that's in the budget, or I will pull in people who know different parts of the budget, and within the first 90 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan that budget, make sure line by line, and analyze it, and pull out things that are obviously not necessary. That will make sure that we are spending our taxpayers' funds wisely. The other thing that I'll do is 2 years ago, the city council members all ran on having an audit done on the city. There's people speaking about all of these many things that are being done wrong within the city finances. So within the first 3 months, I'm going to initiate a audit of the city's finances. Thank you.
Talking about fiscal integrity, Ms. Patrick.
One of the two things that most constituents, which are you and I, we depend on our elected officials to do for us is to be great stewards of our resources and money, and also to improve our quality of life. When it comes to our city, we don't need to have tax and spend, tax and spend. We need to see great stewardship of our money, being cost effective with how we're utilizing our money. Also, we need to make sure that our tax dollar is being used properly. I believe there should have been some relief given to us when it came to the increase in property taxes we're all going to be paying next year. But our taxes need to be used properly so we're not spending on services and not seeing any result from those things. Tightening the wallet to maximize services and maximize use.
And we'll finish up fiscal integrity with Mayor Toms.
Yeah, first of all, we have a healthy reserve fund. And being a part of GMA, the Georgia Municipal Association, and talking to leaders all over the state of Georgia, it's amazing how many people don't have anything in their rainy day fund or the reserve fund. And we have a very healthy reserve fund. So we have done a good job of being fiscally responsible. We've also fixed some of the issues that were causing us a lot of financial grief and potentially causing us more grief as we move forward. And that is you can't give away prime property and think that you're doing okay. And so we fixed that issue, and hopefully that's going to be resolved very soon in the court system, and we'll be able to use that property to help develop downtown to continue growth and increase the tax digest. And then you also can't give away $2.5 million to somebody that don't get the job done. And then you're not funding everybody else that's doing that. Why are you picking this company? So I think it's important that we realize that we have done the best job we can with what we had to work with, and now we're working with a better system to stay fiscally responsible.
All right, final question will come from Caitlin Heck, and we'll start with Ms. Patrick.
What do you think is the single greatest threat to our community, and how do you plan to address it?
The greatest threat I can say right now to our community is what I stated earlier, which is going to be our crime. We have to get it under control, and I know that we will. We're depending on our elected officials to ensure that we will. The other thing I'd say is being left behind. The city of Warner Robins is in the top cities to live based on our statistics in our nation, but we do not look like that at all. We've got to come up to the 21st century when it comes to our infrastructure, our development, our services, everything that we need to improve our quality of life. So if we get those things under control, then our city is going to be better for our children. It's going to be a city that our children will graduate high school from, come back and have careers and raise their children here as well. And I look forward to the day that I can feel content enough in knowing that we finally have lived up to our true potential, and as your mayor, that is going to happen.
Greatest community threat, Mayor Toms.
Well, this may sound a little strange, but I think the greatest community threat we face is listening to the rhetoric that we're not a great city, because the fact is we are a great city, and we have so much to offer here. I think certainly we can put some of the differences behind us, and we can work together better to make sure that we stay great and we keep things moving in the right direction. And that's why it's ultimately important to vote Toms for mayor, so that we can keep moving forward. I have actually been involved, no matter what you hear, I've been involved in every area of this community. I go to churches, I even preach at different churches to be involved in communities. I speak to youth groups. So I know that one of the things that we can give into is listening to the rhetoric and start believing that we're not a great city, and we need to start focusing on selling how great we really are, because we got a lot of good things going on in the city of Warner Robins that make us the best place to live, work, and play, and I want to continue moving us forward.
All right, greatest community threat. We'll finish up with Mr. Baughier.
I'd say two things. We have a short-term threat and more of a long-term threat. Short-term threat, I believe, are the potential losses to the city for these lawsuits. We could be north of $30 million. That's a threat. That's a threat. If the city has to spend that amount of money settling lawsuits, then that's money, taxpayer money, that cannot be reinvested to improve the quality of life of our citizens. Long-term threat, for the last 10, 15 years, we've seen areas of the city be ignored to a certain extent, and maybe at the expense of other areas of the city getting a lot of attention. So what that does for citizens is it makes them feel disenfranchised in a way. So that disenfranchisement is definitely a long-term threat. And if we don't start turning around soon, which I will, then we're not going to be the city that we all want in the future.
All right, we're going to finish up with 1-minute closing statements. We'll begin with Mayor Toms.
Well, I've served this city honorably, with integrity, and with a love and commitment that's unmatched for the last 35 years of my life. I grew up here. This is my home. This is where my wife and I have raised our children. This is where our children's spouses have been raised. And this is where our grandchildren live. And to continue moving this city forward for the benefit of the next generation and the next generation, which includes many people that I love, is important to me. So I ask for your support. I ask for your prayers, and I ask for your vote on or before November the 2nd, so that I can continue doing the work I've done for you for the last 35 years, but the last 8 years as mayor. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the city of Warner Robins, and I'm excited to take us into the next phase of growth in the city of Warner Robins. So again, I ask for your support and your vote, Tom's for mayor, on or before November the 2nd.
All right, 1 minute closing statement, Ms. Patrick.
Same promise, same result, every election season. We as constituents of Warner Robins deserve better. We deserve for our platforms that's told to us and promised to us to actually come to fruition. Tonight you've heard one thing that rings throughout all three of us. There are challenges we face here in our city, and we're going to get through them together. We're going to solve our issue when it comes to our seeing no development. We're going to get through the crime, and I've shown you how we're going to make sure we're great stewards of our tax dollars. But I look forward to the day, as a mother and as a wife and as a resident here, where we can go to downtown with our families, take our children to beautiful playgrounds, enjoy live music with our families, have our children graduate school, come back, start their careers, and also raise their families. And as your mayor, we're going to make that happen. So thank you for allowing me to share my vision, and I look forward to serving as the next mayor of Warner Robins.
And we'll finish up closing statements. Mr. Baughier.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching this forum. You're watching this because you care about the city. You care about its impact on you, your family, and your friends, and your futures. I ask you a few things. One, do not let yourself continue to be divided. We will not be able to tackle any of these issues if we're not locked arm in arm together. The second thing I'm going to ask you is vote your conscience. We've had 8 years of leadership, and he has a record. So if you're happy with that, then vote your conscience. If you think the city needs a change, you have an option for change. And I ask you humbly to allow me and you together to work for that change and make it happen. Thank you.
And we want to thank everyone who joined in with Warner Robins Political Forum, the Office of Mayor. We want to thank Stephen Baughier, LaRhonda Patrick, and Randy Toms for taking your time to be with us. We want to thank our panelists, Caitlin Heck and David Danzy. We also want to thank the Robins Regional Chamber for gathering the resources and putting them out there so that people can understand what is happening right now. Early voting runs through October the 29th. That is a Friday. If you don't early vote, then Tuesday, November 2nd, is Election Day. You have heard a lot from our candidates tonight. We wanted to get this information out to you. You've heard them. You now take what you've learned and go vote. We certainly appreciate you for being with us. This forum will air this coming Saturday on 13 WMAZ. That is October the 23rd, I believe, at noon for those of you who want to watch it. Thanks very much for being with us, and take care and have a great day.